Gonna do what they can with Chongo on the top side of the map. Expect some Frostfang shenanigans.
And I've liked some Jin Air drafts. I've liked a lot of Jin Air early games. Let's see how we begin here. So far, the analysts have done some cool things, but we're into patch 9.3, the hot fix to the Frostfang and those GP10 items not there in Korea for week number 4 of the LCK. And the Yasuo is first banned. They see Chongo, and they had the same read as us. So a mid lane roll swap to top lane. The Yasuo seemed on the cards, and just like its solo rank, the Yasuo is gone.
Yep, I think Karma probably needs to come in as well because, you know, mid lane transfer to top side is Yorick is going to be the second ban here. Chongo not going to be able to go towards that one either.
I think that might end up being a SANDBOX champion, but I guess they don't want to first pick it, and they feel like shenanigans the only reason that Chongo would overtake Linderung as a starter. So they're banning away the new age shenanigans champions they see coming. If they banned Zed here, I would laugh a lot. I don't think Chongo will be playing that, but is famous for it in the mid lane. LeBlanc, another strong mid laner taken away. So the Zoe still available, and a champion that Grace has won with.
Standing out like a bit of a sore thumb at this point in time is Jin Air, thinking about their final ban. Still a lot of things available. Ezreal is standing out as a champion that was banned in both of our games in the first series, and yesterday did some hard carrying in our Kingzone versus SKT match, but it's the Galio that's going to hit the bench. A multi-flex ban there going over to Joker, Dove, and theoretically Summit as well, as Jace is going to be the first pick for SANDBOX.
And it's something I think they'll take gleefully, Atlas, because remember that SANDBOX has been one of the best at flex assassins. Summit plays Akali so well, and so did Dove. They were both good at Aatrox. They had the issue, though, that Akali nerfed, that Camille no longer as much of a flex. The jungle is possible, but harder.
Yep.
Jace is a true flex, so it is important for them to still have those champions, because that's got them a lot of their drafting advantages. So, like the first pick Jace, it doesn't cost them anything, it gets them something. How did Jin Air approach this? Remember the Zoe we mentioned is available to be selected, and Grace had a pop-off performance on that. The only MVP Jin Air has picked up all season.
Yeah, it's exactly right. That could be going for here. They could also deny the Kalista from Ghost if they would like to, but Zoe is certainly standing out.
I think you take it. I think you're too worried that SANDBOX will snowball super hard and the pick comp will pick you to death. Speaking of picks that have often worked out well for SANDBOX, when it's not Camille, it is usually Lee Sin. When it comes to on Fleek, he has defaulted this a lot like some of our other junglers. Feels like Lee Sin priority going up in the LCK, so I'm happy to see on Fleek return to a champion that hasn't been touched at all this patch, and Dove seems to be on Lissandra duty. It doesn't really, you know, reach for the skies when it comes to reinventing the wheel. It's pretty standard, but here's a pick that if the game goes long enough could find a bit of value. What is with the Urgot priority this week? Our swift thought, with it not receiving Nurse, was that Urgot would just be first pick, first ban, but teams increasingly have kind of not really bothered too much with the Urgot.
In fact, it was this week that he just left 100% pick ban rate as well after everything got nerfed around him. So very interesting that you mentioned it, Papa Smithy, but I don't have a very good answer for it. It is going to be picked up here by Jin Air as their final lock-in. See whether it does okay into the Jace. We saw that matchup be abused in our second game of our first series of the night, and there's our first ban as the Shen is going to be taken off the board. For SANDBOX, Joker, of course, not going to be playing that. Was one of our first to play it here in the LCK in 2019.
If I'm SANDBOX, I ban Jax, and I'm kind of okay with whatever other jungler Malrung plays. I think you would rather, if you're Jin Air, to keep 80 carry to last pick now and try to blind pick a jungler. But they're going to ban away, like you say, the Kalista you mentioned earlier for the Kalista-Thresh interaction. I don't think you're too concerned with that because you can Draven into it. But
yeah.
Draven does struggle a bit after 6 with the amount of gap close that the Fate's Call can provide. So kind of neither here nor there on the decision there. I would like a Jax ban. He plays a lot of Xin Zhao, but I think Xin Zhao priority is super low this week.
Really
in the
has.
LCK.
Yeah. Well, Braum going to be taken away here on the side of Jin Air, and I like the Kalista ban also for the fact that On Fleek has already prioritized the Lee Sin, so can't try and deny with anything like the Nocturne that they're going to ban also.
Interesting, that's the one jungler. I would have thought Jax, because I think Malrung is really good on the Jax pick, and I feel like that's really powerful, maybe underrepresented in this week of play.
It means Ezreal is free here for Jin Air if they want to go towards it.
Then you could counterpick jungle, which was the meta in the first week. Teams are definitely fighting to deceive. My suspicion has been holding on to 80 carry pick. Let's see what Jin Air think about it.
Wow.
I think they're going to hold on to 80 carry pick here. They're pretty afraid of, say, a Draven, for example, and that's kind of understandable. If you don't ban Draven and then you first pick 80 carry in the second round and get Draven, then it's kind of like, oops, that was my own mistake. So actually don't mind this. off chance that Jace is going bot lane, as Ghost has been playing a lot of crazy stuff in solo queue.
A lot of, Yasuo, I believe the Vladimir as well, has become one of his most played here in this season thus far. As Tahm Kench being considered, and should be a bit of a no-brainer here, and pairing it with the Ezreal would be the textbook play, but SANDBOX can certainly mix things up.
Caitlyn.
The Caitlyn or the Draven could even just be blind picked here if they would like to. Lots of options, and with crit 80 carries making their way back in, I would like to see it.
I think Ghost can show whatever he wants to show here. Seems like anything is really on the ball, so will it be the ultra safe Ezreal and trying to outrange, or will it be something else?
Oh, wow.
It might actually be an awesome dude, which has largely been out of the meta this week. The Victor being hovered. The Victor, let's wait for it. Finally will be locked in, so they basically smell a rat and say, all right, you're holding your 80 carry pick really, really long here. We're not sure what to expect, so we'll just take Victor and wave clear, or we'll consider a Jace role swap to bot side.
Exactly. Well, Varus being looked at here by Jin Air. That'd be a very interesting pickup here, because it doesn't necessarily scream to me benefiting from the new changes. This would make a bit more sense, as Awesome Dude versus Awesome Dude is the call out from Jin Air. Considering the Vladimir in the first round of picks, it didn't get banned, and they're going to lock it in here. So we've got no 80 carries after the crit item buffs, and instead it's going to be Victor versus Vlad, most likely on the bottom side, unless we've got some weird stuff going on. But it looks like Grace will be back on his MVP performance level Zoe.
Conventional logic for Korea would be Vlad bot lane, but obviously in the LEC we saw very early Perks playing some bot lane Zoe.
Yeah.
Zoe versus Victor, a very nice matchup for the Zoe, as we know from seeing it in the mid lane yesterday. So we'll wait for 20 seconds to get that confirmation, but this is our expectation. Let's wait, see what the reality is.
I just find it so strange.
And go.
Yeah, we've got Chongo on the top side of the map playing Urgot. I mean, is that necessarily better than playing Linderung? And also, does that mean that they get it guaranteed because the Yasuo ban then has to be flexed into? The Yorick ban has to come in as well. I mean, there are a lot of adaptations, a lot of question marks as to why it's Chongo playing up there, because Linderung has not necessarily been the weakest link for this squad thus far.
I always hesitate to speculate as to the why of a roster change like this on a team that has one game win all season.
Yeah,
there's lots of different, speculations about scrims and personalities that we just don't know. We don't have any insight. There is no public sentiment there. So I can't give you a real answer, Atlas. I agree with your basic premise of why not Linderung on Urgot, but this is what they've decided on for today, and if it passed the eye test, they've finally got something semi-positive to show. When it comes to Jin Air games, we've had to, again, focus on early game and to a point. If they can even stay competitive for 25 minutes, is that the worst look for Jin Air? The answer to me is probably no.
Yeah. Well, Malrong's going to be on the Jarvan. We've seen it be very successful in the hands of Clid yesterday, but we've also seen it get completely obliterated in our game today. This wasn't what we wanted out of Dread, but here we go. Our second series of the night starts now. Jin Air faithful still in full voice, but SANDBOX is really starting to get some fans together after their start to the split was so incredibly strong, only losing a series to Griffin. And in the end, it was convincing from Griffin, but dropping a game is actually a huge deal. So here we are, SANDBOX, trying to wash off that 1-2 loss and pick up the win here against the bottom place team in the league.
And definitely it's one of those league implications days for SANDBOX where it's, we need a 2-0 to keep our game score nice and healthy and to pounce if Griffin ever does actually trip up. So a trap game is what we usually call series like this, where very clearly there is a 2nd versus 10th place team. But with SANDBOX and the fact that they are definitely new the dizzying heights of top 3 in the LCK, they always have to be at least half worried that things could change rapidly if anything doesn't go their way.
Yeah, true. Well, Jeanette, this is the time of the game where things have gone well for them. So what is their plan in the early game is my question, as Chongo is just going to shotgun legs this red buff to death and move towards the top side of the map, and Malrong's going to have a really healthy leash here on this red buff. It's my favorite Jarvan skin. I like it.
And I'm liking the more jungle Jarvan we're seeing this week.
Yeah.
I was, of course, a noted detractor of the AP support Jarvan. Spirit still waving my fist at you.
Yeah.
Jungle Jarvan, level 2, very, very strong and can impact the lane in many different ways. Your path is also get a buff and then kind of go wherever you want, right? Because level 2 is for an extended time you're going to be your focus, and you could just go Cinder Hulk and be an ult bot in the late game. Your ult gets splashes, so it's still going to be doing something as a Jarvan.
Yep.
Wait and see what that decision is, but so far it's red into bot lane Scuttle for the side of the Jarvan, which does get some extra coverage for Vladimir on the bot side.
Well, Summit's not going to find that Shock Blast, but level 2 being gained by the Jace means that this lane control that he's probably going to have anyway is certainly something very impressive.
Notice that Summit doesn't subscribe to the recent trend of Jace versus Urgot taking Kleptoman. See, he's doubling down for lane, and that's why I wanted to see. There's champions here you could definitely fit a Frostfang into. Frostfang, you know, it's very interesting. It's investment banking. It's you want to poke around lane. There's two schools of thought. It's stay more in lane to get that quest faster, or, well, you don't need to CS so you can duck out of lane. Do Summit and the side of SANDBOX, do we ever see this team go for GP10 in this 1 week meta? And if so, do they play to their items? It's kind of a query I want to know, because so far SANDBOX have found their advantages from playing the early game better than basically the rest of the field. And how does Frostfang interact with that?
Well, certainly some options here for SANDBOX. Dove could pick that one up. Ghost certainly could also gather it on the bottom side of the map on his awesome dude Victor down there.
And remember that bot lane is the place where you're less ripe to be punished, because remember, when the meta changes, you can still go bot lane Frostfang Vladimir, get 10% CDR, build a Kindle gem and get the gem and get 45% CDR. So given that that is not going to be hotfixed next week, the interaction in a duo lane, wait to learn more about where the meta might take us.
Yep. Grace just threading some paddle stars here in the minion wave as Dove was trying to hold on to things. No huge advantages being gained here as Grace is going for the min damage harass, just practicing for when he does eventually build his Frostfang, which I assume is going to come in here for the Zoe.
Is a priority lane for the Zoe against the Lysandra as well, so that's a nice matchup for them there. Need a bit of help to make Urgot work against Jace. If his flash is down, he's a lot more honest as a champion, so that seems to be what Marong is subscribing to. Are we ready for another EQ flash, and whether it comes off or not, I wonder?
Ooh, the disdain actually going to be used forward as Chongo is going to get punished for it really, really hard, but is it all a bait? The back is actually going to most likely get completed by the looks of things here from Malrang as Chongo, unfortunately, the result of that is going to be just losing a whole bunch of his health bar.
I wonder about next level. Like, would you ever go top and short your E on purpose just to get an aggressive trade, you wonder?
Ooh, that's a really nice hook, but Joker denies it as the anti-fun button comes in.
Good cooldown trade, but no more.
Yeah.
Farm suits the Vladimir a lot more than it suits the Victor, and we haven't seen first backs to know if there's going to be GP10 on either side.
And also, Root is playing this one out very, very well. You wouldn't expect Vladimir to win a lane like this, but maybe with a Thresh in hand, it's going to be a better opportunity here as Joker going very aggressive, but the Lantern does mean that fun denial is on both sides of this lane.
Smart of Thresh to back off first, because that means the Lantern will get out his ally, so no way for Dove to make that play. Marong checking on the status of Dove, who would love to get his roaming boots on, not having a lot of fun against Zoe.
Yeah, also, OnFleek hasn't been doing too much here, just going to be power farming to level 6 and does have that level 5 already available for himself, despite the nerfs to the jungle experience. So, Malrang back to his jungle, back to trying to catch up in these levels as well, and expect to see OnFleek on this map as soon as that level 6 has been hit.
And if you ask me the question of whose draft do you like more, Papa Smithy, if the game goes past mid-game with no benefit to SANDBOX, so they can't play to their usual tendency of getting a lot of turret plates and a lot of gold and just snowballing out of control, I think Jinner have their number in a couple of different ways. The Zoe poke is going to be very annoying. The Vladimir outscales any champion on the side of SANDBOX. There's a lot of good news stories later on, and they got that priority mid lane to back them up as well. So given that, we're going to be looking for SANDBOX and maybe level 6 on OnFleek to start making the good moves in the early to mid-game. Otherwise, the Gathering Storm might be the potential for Jinner to upset as the game goes on.
Yeah, and I find it really interesting because oftentimes we talk about these awesome dude comps, but often they're against 80 carry compositions, and there isn't one on the side of SANDBOX. So I feel like it's even more accentuated. The old time limit that you get with having a Vladimir on the opposing side. So we'll see whether it is actually going to work out here as Farmer's being evened out as Ghost teleports back into this lane, but Root hasn't even used his yet. He's going to finally get back in there after picking up whatever farm he can. Dove will continue to get harassed here in this lane, but his utility will theoretically outgrow what Grace can do in the mid-game unless things fall apart.
It's something for the neutrals to get excited about. Seems like both these teams have agreed no Frostfang for game number 1.
Yeah.
First purchases are in, and unless Zoe builds it at a kind of weird timing, it does seem pretty likely we'll be skipping over the gold
Gentleman's agreement.
Frostmancy situation, so I'll take a gentleman's agreement if I can get one.
Still looking pretty frosty here in the mid lane as Super Soaker comes out from Grace. And Dove not exactly the happiest about this. Good to see Grace still performing very well on this Zoe that he did manage to pick up his MVP on. I know we've been harking on about it a lot, but I mean, there's only so many good things we can talk about when it comes to Jin Air, and you need to try and balance out a broadcast with as many positives as you can for both teams.
At the end of the day, unfortunately, the Jin Air struggle, I think, is clear to everyone, right? I don't even tweet SADPlay anymore because they've just been hitting a mid-game, and the first sign of any kind of danger or things going bad, things get really bad. For the side of Jin Air, yeah, as you note, seemed like it was a back timing for Dove that OnFlake even gets a nice chunk out on the mid lane, but Grace is backing anyway. It's not going to be of huge consequence, only the cleanse the real reward. Yeah,
so picks up a summoner spell for his trouble, but also is able to play with the minion wave just for a little bit of time. It means that Dove doesn't get denied at all after teleporting a lot earlier.
And something to return to for the Lissandra with the cleanse being on cooldown.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Certainly a lot of options here as there's a Lantern Ride coming in for Malrang. Not going to get gravity fielded as they're going to focus on Joker. Grey health is there though, and now with the Chaos Field, Ghost is trying to answer back. Root throws down the Hemoplague, but that's only going to deter momentarily. And Jin Air do not find any joy in the game.
I assume that was to all in on Joker, but he was just outside of the AoE range. Never going to be one rotation on Ghost this early in the game with a couple of CDR items.
Yeah. And also, one thing that I actually missed was the fact that Infernal Drake went down to OnFleek, managing to do that very early on, with Malrang hanging around on the top side of the map, most likely.
It was a back timing thing. Vladimir was greedy because he wanted to go for this 1,700 gold. I want 45% CDR ASAP. So because Victor shopped earlier, it was all about back timings, and that's when it was picked up. Summit with Aerie is going to win lane harder when it comes to forcing Urgot out. He does more damage. So first turret plate is claimed in the top, one taken in the mid lane. Usually we see, I feel like, I don't have this stat on this, but I feel like they average 4 to 5 turret plates a game.
Yeah,
they've been very good in the early game. And Jace with Summoner Aerie definitely tells you they're about turret plates. Still another 5 minutes, and it's 2 to the good so far for SANDBOX.
And also we're going to have Shelly spawning on the map very, very soon. You can see OnFleek already on the top side of the map. Level 6 has been hit, and he's got so much vision around
What's in the middle of that
side.
triangle, Atlas?
Well, there is an Urgot, and he may not have a life for very much longer.
OnFlake looking for the dive here, threatening it. The middle of the triangle is also that Rift Herald about to spawn.
Yep, Purge has been used, but Sonic Wave is not going to get followed, and they're just waiting for the minion wave, and it feels like a see your death moment. Yep, Chlorodoom does come in as, yep, the rotation's just not there, and even Summit's able to pick up that kill. That's more turret plates, and that's more disaster here on the board for Jin Air.
And guess what? It's also a free Rift Herald because all the priority is top side. Thresh's Roam is probably going to be a waste of time too. Vladimir's not coming with him. They're not lane swapping, which might have been a consideration if not for Infernal. If the Infernal wasn't there, you're much more incentivized to lane swap, I would say a second spawn Ocean, but given it all, Lee Sin, because Jace wants to back and has no mana, won't be doubling down on getting it right now. But they see the enemy jungler, they see that Malrang needs a back timing of his own. They back away, no harm, no foul, just an advantage to SANDBOX. You're trying to be ahead of the play, Jin Air, but unfortunately not ahead enough. You are about 6 seconds too slow on this play, and it means no safety for Chongo.
Yeah, just unfortunately no teleport available either or anything like that. So Chongo, I guess one of the options would be try and teleport out before the minion wave actually gets there, but even then that feels real bad and get kicked out of it.
You want to hear an amusing interaction?
Oh, yeah.
The Sandra ult was put on cooldown, and there was the passive, but didn't get an assist.
Huh. Yeah, I did see that Frozen Thrall.
That was weird.
Maybe it didn't do any damage or something like that.
Why was there a Frozen Thrall?
It's a very good point. So, look, I don't have the answer for you, Popsmith. I'd probably pause the game.
Well, no pause by SANDBOX, as they want more turret plates.
Yeah, there's no time for that. 1,600 gold is now the lead for SANDBOX Gaming. A lot of that towards this top side of the map, and still more questions come in. Why Chongo? Why not Linderung, who has demonstrated in the past that he's a very strong player in his own right? Maybe not necessarily so far here, but I guess you have to wonder why things went wrong. Might not be feeling well.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of reasons.
Don't have all the information.
No public statement, a team in freefall. You know, your mind goes to different places, and it's not fair to speculate, I don't think, for Jin Air. We're trying to focus on finding any silver linings for their plight that we can. SANDBOX themselves walking around, already a 1,500 gold lead.
Oh no, all the buttons go wide apart from the trouble bubble. But with a hook on cooldown, they're unable to follow up on that one. Kellen maybe needed to be a little bit more patient. But Jin Air, they started up the Rift Herald, but instead go down to try and contest this Infernal Drake. And if they are actually able to pick that one up, that dirty S word that you've been talking about in series gone by could be a word that we could talk about.
And against any other team, you're sitting there saying scaling with conviction, but because it's Jin Air, you don't see them getting there, right? That's just how cookie crumbles right now. Jin Air have done well to stop Rift Herald and Infernal from being completed. They have been showing enough respect and walking up early enough. Those objectives are being repelled, but that's already a lot of turret plates on the top side, and if Jay starts to spread his lead, perhaps good things will follow for the side of SANDBOX.
Yeah, he's already taken almost all the money available there. Looking to go back. Picked up a Black Cleaver as item number 1. Ghostblade is often what we see gone toward, but wants the extra CDR, wants to be able to shred through Chongo as he's going to be building armor after his own Black Cleaver does come in.
The stand and deliver item choice is the Black Cleaver. Usually it's Youmu's just to be out of range of things like the Cataclysm if you see the Jarvan show up on screen. But Black Cleaver, good at battling, a bit more health that might help in an all-in attempt with the Urgot ultimate. And yes, if you're going to just go for a man fight, you feel good about it. Let's see where SANDBOX are now. They know Zoe's on a back timer, so that second Infernal will soon follow. And Malrung, all he can claim is a red.
Yeah, it was on a ward as well. Being able to get that ward in the pit means that OnFleek able to grab the second Infernal very, very easily. Said textbook before, but it's feeling like that's continuing. Summit will have this turret down very, very soon. First turret blood will mean that we'll be heading towards about a 4,000 gold lead. Before these turret plates even fall down, it's the last remaining one. Summit will guarantee so much money here for this squad. One falling down on the bottom side, one in mid, and all of them on the top side as finally they leave. And that was basically no turrets touched on the other side of the map.
And the worrying thing is that the comp that scales in the mid game really strong with 1-2 items is kind of almost bloodlessly even more ahead than it looks like on screen, because they have double Infernal Atlas on a comp that has Jace, Lee Sin, Lissandra, and Victor. And while they don't have much sustained damage in a fight, damn do they have burst damage before there's enough time for the enemy to have health and damage alike.
Exactly. What's the point of having sustained damage if your round of burst kills everyone?
Again, it's one of those, the best CC is death kind of thing, where that will just end the life, and doesn't matter if you're lacking in other things. SANDBOX has a lot of things right now, and every time Jin Air walks up, they have to definitely choose the right battle.
Well, they are going to come in and actually pressure them away from Shelly as Malrung. Can he actually lock it down? The answer is yes, as he picks that one up, but can they actually survive here? Hemoplague going down as Root may actually need to flash over this wall, does eventually do so. Hemoplague just to deter, but they lose their support after gaining Shelly.
But that was actually pretty well organized there. The macro core and how they approached the defense did enough to pressure OnFleek away, and thus got them an objective that burst the game. So let's reward Jin Air for a pretty good defense there.
Whoa, okay. See you later, Tom Kench. You are well and truly dead.
No time for
like a visual bug. Yeah, in we go. Ghost going to get cataclysmed, but now OnFleek wants to find the kickback, gets it onto one, and into the frozen tomb goes Malrung. Summit comes on forward. He's got a lot of that sustained DPS, actually. And he'll be fishing for some shock blasts underneath this turret as well.
So overall, pretty good play for Jin Air GreenWings, given the state they were in. They will lose blue buff control from this, and Summit still hunting.
Yeah, can they actually get any more on the side of this one? Because SANDBOX with priority in still multiple areas as the hook going to go well and truly wide.
You know what priority looks like? 15 minutes in the game, teleporting onto the enemy turret as Summit is, let's say, extending his lead in the mid lane. Chongo is freezing up top while this is happening. That's a mid laner not contributing when it comes to actually being able to hit the map, and they're going to lose everything while a freeze was happening. That's why you don't freeze Atlas.
It's even worse than that, because Summit was 1v2ing and pressuring them away from the turret the whole time. Grace will turn up here after that back, and Joker doesn't even use the Grey Hell.
He hasn't for quite a while. He died not being able to use it earlier.
I mean, we've been talking about his old man mechanics, but I'm going to call that one calculated. Let's have a look at this one again. Yeah, Trouble Bubble lands. Boop.
Yep. That's what we call burst, and it's counter burst, because we have been touting SANDBOX, the big burst team. Malrung's tanky, so he can afford just Cataclysm out of nowhere, OnFleek, smooth moves on the Lee Sin. We've seen a lot of that today. Punch put on a clinic in game number 2 of our first series. To me, the bigger problem here, the replay I want to see is the map state, the mini-map as we watched on in Horrors. A Jace beat 2 people while an Urgot kind of slowly killed minions in top as a Victor felt strong enough to TP onto enemy outer turret range at the same time.
Exactly, and they were able to take down that outer turret as well, as 3 turrets have now gone down in favor of SANDBOX in that lead that we were talking about. Spelling about 4,000. OnFleek wandering over a ward, but now that the map control is well and truly in their favor, OnFleek, with the flash available, with the kick available now as well, can just kick back anyone, stand and deliver them onto Ghost and Dove, and Gravity Field plus Frozen Tomb is a pretty smooth combo.
If somehow you get a lot of kills in the mid-game, another good thing about Vladimir with Teleport is you can feel pretty good about most of these side lane matchups. If Jace isn't, say, a half item to full item ahead, I think Vladimir has great options there as well. So we still look at Root and say, all right, almost CS for CS with a Victor, a kill. Things could definitely be going a lot worse with the Vladimir, but we always counterpoint that with can Jinair stem the bleeding and never allow this game to be 5,000 gold plus to the side of SANDBOX game.
At the moment, we're looking towards that being a reality. Jinair are going to throw down Shelly. She'll get one
no
charge.
deep vision with this, so the best you can hope for is one charge. She's never going to get the turret.
Oh no. Root can't even walk up there as Joker pokes her in the eye that's in her back.
For Jinair,
given
some of their previous Rift Heralds,
not
the worst by far.
It wasn't cancelled. That's probably why Kellen picked it up instead of Malra.
If you told me that more than half their Rift Heralds haven't charged this season, I'd believe it.
I think that's actually the case.
So they haven't got that many, and we can note at least 2 to 3 that haven't charged.
Yep. Well, there's definitely been some pretty good Drakes here in favor of SANDBOX, especially given their priority. So Mountain Drake will be picked up as Drake number 3.
And that's where you feel bad for Jinair, because you went for a scaling comp and the enemy got double Infernal Mountain when you're 0-11. You're just like, well, this isn't that fair.
No.
And it's not, but them's the breaks, I guess.
Whoever said the world was fair, Papa Smithy, and certainly wasn't a Jinair fan. SANDBOX feeling happy about it. OnFleek times that one a little bit late as the back had come through. Chongo now has a heal in hand with his unsealed spellbook. Not going to be going for anything weird like we have seen just recently.
What's your take on that statement? Because it's, you know, your parents throw it out, right? The world's not fair.
I actually think it's very true. You know, there's no use just getting upset. Try and be solutions orientated rather than crying over something that you can't
But I almost
change.
feel like it's fairly unfair. Like, it's not really unfair to any. It's not really fair
I think
for
it
people.
doesn't care.
But it's pretty exactly. It's almost agnostic. So I'm kind of with you on that one there. And solutions focus is probably the right way to go. And what's the solution for Jinair to get out of this losing streak? Today's try is Chongo on the top lane. Is that a one-game experiment? We're not to know. The early game focus wasn't enough to actually allow them to kind of have the veterancy to play a good mid-game. So I guess you kind of have to get the spinner out at this point if you're Jinair. How do you get out of this plight you're in? Because I don't think anyone has like a really to-the-point solution.
No, not quite yet. However, that 5,000 gold lead that you were talking about is finally in here for SANDBOX. On the other side of the coin, Grace and Root are still okay. We're looking towards our next items. We're looking for the Zoe to find more of these trouble bubbles and for Root to be able to get fed off that, which is what we've already seen exemplified in our earlier skirmish. It's just whether or not we can actually get to that point.
How do you get to a point is the question. You lose the minimum. That's what Jinair want to do. They say,
and they used to be good at this.
Exactly. And you want to extend the game from good defensive vision. That is what Jinair can do. Maran can stand in a wall with a control ward and say, yes, you're free to farm, Root. And he's the only person they really desperately need to farm. It's helpful if other people are farming, but Root is their win condition this game. So the correct play for Thresh and Jarvan is to play on the side Root is on, put down wards, and if it's around Baron, you feel even better because you don't want to allow the enemy to take Baron. Everything else, you know, you got to stem bleeding, you got to give away acceptable losses, but that is what Jinair can control. They got some pretty decent wave clear. They've got a Cinderhulk Jarvan who can walk up and not die and probably escape. From there, extend the game through guaranteeing Root farm.
Well, at the moment, Chongo hasn't been dove and destroyed. He will have his Righteous Glory relatively soon as Kellen doesn't quite find the Lantern in the right spot there, but Malrung is going to be okay. OnFleek's just trying to get pressure, trying to find targets. Doesn't have the rest of his team around him, and SANDBOX seem pretty okay with just farming things out, trying to get pressure where they can. Feels like they've been routed a little bit with their earlier aggression, and the mid-game has been their problem, if there is one, for SANDBOX thus far.
Here's how I imagine SANDBOX see this game playing out. Let's push out our lanes. Jace is in a great spot in the side lanes. Wait for Jin Air to mess up a back timing when they're exhausted of vision and take a Baron. That's what I think SANDBOX want to do. Their Baron damage isn't spectacular.
No.
They turn better than their damage. Victor, Lissandra, obviously pretty meager Baron damage there. But there's so much pressure in the Jace lane that a mistake is likely to happen, right? If you keep shaking that tree, something's likely to fall from it. And right now, Jin Air have been pretty brittle. So that's my impression of how SANDBOX want to play. The fact that they didn't go for an 80 carry does, again, throw that a little bit into question, but that's traditionally how a comp like this with Jace plays out is Jace is a one-man army. The enemy team backs at the wrong time, too early or too late, and runs out of vision, and then good things happen. The reality, we'll have to check in and check.
Well, at the moment, Summit has gone back and grabbed himself a Guardian Angel from a stopwatch. So he's going to be even more difficult to deal with now and also take a long time to go down. Chongo also has to wait until after the GA before he uses the ultimate in any sort of 1v1 scenario, so a dive could certainly come in here for Summit, especially if he has minions there that haven't been dealt with. More vision now picked up for SANDBOX. Speaking of back timings, they secured theirs. Safeguard will keep the Lee Sin safe as we've got claws moving around. We've got Safeguards helping everyone stay mobile, and Grace unable to really find any more of these trouble bubbles that he was successful in finding in that one kill against Joker. Chongo.
Still, again, right now, this game state I really like for Jin Air, because how do you win more? We already mentioned Baron, but it's hard. A rotational play, a dive, maybe, diving with Jace on an Urgot, tricky to pull off. They're trying the piggyback approach here. Summit just joins Jace, says, I can Abyssal Voyage elsewhere, and then we don't have map control. But these are still incremental advantages. These are not game-winning advantages. And for now, Jin Air is looking at the clock and saying, we're doing everything possible to hold strong in this mid-game. And at the 24-minute mark, I can't complain. I can say they've done a pretty good job.
And a little bit over 1,000 gold for both of these big AP carries, and you've got a Vladimir with a cool hat, followed by Grace copying him as well. And if you're in the schoolyard, you might get made fun of, but if you both got them in a League of Legends game, you're going to be real happy as, yeah, we're getting towards the timings for both of these players.
And it's at the same time as the enemy. Victor is only 200 gold ahead. The bounties are starting to pile up. You see that hemomancy happen, some big hemo plagues on the enemy team, 3 people dying, and this gold lead closes fast.
Yeah.
And that is where things might kick into gear. So SANDBOX Gaming, you can't take a fast Baron, you can push out and get wards down. How can you get more than right now what feels kind of like trading 6 minions for 5? You don't want to do that with the Jin Air comp, so I'm waiting to see how they problem solve. Actually a pretty tricky spot. We saw Kingzone Dragon X, even in their huge winning streak in spring, find moments where they couldn't translate big early games into closing a game. Closing a game when you don't have an 80 carry is way harder than closing the game when you do have an 80 carry. So we're watching here on pretty intently to see how SANDBOX, because we already mentioned the manner of their victory is an important thing for a team contending for top 2.
Right now, Summit certainly happy to contend with Root, despite the fact that the Rabbidan's Death Cap has come in for both of these carries.
Here's the first go.
Yeah, the Jace is certainly in a great spot. Coming on over to try and augment this damage onto the Baron, as we do have vision available for Jin Air. They know that this is happening, and they have everyone in position. The movement now from Root does have teleport, but also is just in the area as Grace doesn't land the ward. That's a bit of a fat finger there, but at least is able to provide some vision over the wall if SANDBOX are going to move on over there.
Malrong being so defensive. Your first thought is, why don't you just throw out the flag? But he is keeping the flag available to flag and drag out. He's that worried about a potential turn. And Lissandra on the enemy team is a good thing to be worried about. So they're just trying to get vision in there. Cinderhulk Jarvan is really good at the term we call Gragas bowling. Just being a jungler whose job is to sit around Baron, and if he's getting Vlad some farm, if he's stopping the enemy Baron from going down, for Gragas' case, throwing Qs over the wall. With Jarvan, it's E and control wards, and they get off a recall, they refresh another 6 control wards, and they live on for another few minutes of the game, Atlas.
Yeah, and the more times that we can say that, the better you're going to feel for Jin Air, despite the fact that, oh, okay, they're just going to go in. Hemo Plague is down, only on a 2, as the gravity field is going to be onto Malrong, but he gets out. Grace now looking for more. We got the Lee Sin. He's going to be stunned up as Chongo finally makes his way forward. GreenWings not going to find too much from that, but use a lot of their cooldowns. Another bubble's going to land, but I just don't know what they can actually get from it.
Bit of rush of blood from Malrong, but not the worst time to pull it off. You might say, what are we fighting for? And that I might understand, but they now have low mana on multiple members, and they need to walk up again. Waiting to see if they do it. This is a Baron under their noses.
Yep. Control Ward does go over the side, so Malrong going to try and come in here with the smite. Chongo Purge on forward and actually gets a lot of damage there onto Joker as SANDBOX have peeled off the Baron. Not wanting to go for the 50-50 as we do have a lot of pressure in the lanes elsewhere.
The ults available for SANDBOX are higher quality than Jin Air have. That's why they're happy to still poke around and look to see what sticks. Remember, Lissandra still has ult.
Yeah, Hemoplague, Cataclysm, and the box all on cooldown for Jin Air, as you illustrate. So that's going to mean that the inner turret does fall in the mid lane. Still one inner remaining on the top side of the map. 5 turrets to 0. Now going to the lead for SANDBOX, but this lead is only continuing to grow. We were commending Jin Air for allowing the Vladimir to farm, things like that. However, still being the case of falling further and further behind.
And if you're Coach Han right now, who's had one game win to speak of, a Grace pop-up on Zoe, you're so happy with how your team is playing. It might not be easy on the eye. You might have given up 4 Drakes and you feel bad that it was 2 Infernals and a Mountain on the way. But for your team, whose identity quickly became, let's wait for a better spot. The defensive macro was good. The back timings have been fine. They've been defending the Baron. Jin Air have had almost nothing to show. And sadly for them, you can't really show defensive macro in the next highlight video when we see them play again. But I've been impressed with how they've clung on to relevance in this game. Even with a role swap top laner who hasn't really been caught with his pants down at any moment. He hasn't been perfect. There was the moment where the Jace was getting job done 1v2, but otherwise, Chongo's been fine.
Yeah, it's a matchup where he's going to get punished, and 1 versus 3 where you have no real other options. You're going to die. You're exactly right. Don't know what Linderung would have done in the scenario. As Malrong's going to get tagged by that Shock Blast, and he's going to lose his red buff, most definitely. You saw that went down in a blink of an eye as On Fleek does find the Q, but the Lantern Ride is going to get Root out to safety. Kellen had some questionable plays in the early game, but has since been able to at least keep people alive. Grace is 1 Shock Blast away from dead, as at least Death Ray doesn't tag him.
So, let's talk about lane assignments. I know they don't sound very exciting. We've got no kills to talk about, guys. I'm working with what I got. Here's what Jin Air can't allow.
Oh, can we get to a 6 straight game? We need to kill this in 30 seconds.
Definitely going to kill it in 30 seconds. There's a very interesting little duality here where Jace actually has to be split pushing top or mid. If he's bot lane, they have no Baron threat at all. But Vladimir can be in the side lane and come in late with the Hemoplague. And that's a very interesting duality here because Vlad can handle Jace in the side lane. And that's the weird thing that's happening here is that the game needs to be won by Jace, but Vladimir can farm in the bot lane against someone that he beats pretty easily in the 1v1. Vlad's happy against Lissandra, happy against Victor at this point in the game, closing in on level 16. And that lane assignment again works against a team that is struggling to find a way to kill the Baron. If you have an AD carry, the Baron has died pre-30 minutes. There's 2 Mountains and 2 Infernals. This Baron is faster than Jin Air might realize, so they still need to be not caught napping. They still have not much speed.
Malrong going to be able to get out of there for the moment. Has to flash in the end as the Frozen Tomb was utilized, but wasn't as effective as they wanted. Zoe just gets picked up. On Fleek goes golden in the backline there as well as, oh no, a little bit of a misclick there from Joker on.
Grace!
Okay, diving into the backline is Root now as well as the Hemoplague. Not quite doing enough, but Summit is just going 1v3 and Root, he dived through, got the most amazing Hemoplague, but it just didn't matter. The rest of his team was dying to 1 dude.
I mean, he's still going.
Okay, yeah, he's still trying to get the work done. Crimson Rush was fantastic, but there we go. It's a pretty cool looking front flip, and Summit finishes him off.
Holy crap was the Vlad bid, but unfortunately Grace went down so early that Root in the backline didn't matter. He would have done about 9,000 damage plus in that team fight, and unfortunately, they lose an inhibitor, they lose map control, they'll probably lose Baron from it.
Yeah, it's a real disaster as the mid lane inhibitor will go down. And now it's a freebie on the Baron side of things. On Fleek somehow surviving in amongst all of that. As the rest of his team follow up instantly. Got actual backs coming in as Root's the only one still in the death chamber After 10 seconds go by, here's Chongo is just about up once again.
But if you're Root, you're so gutted because your team was so close to buying you the time to get to this point.
Yeah.
Watching the replay, Marong's really tanky, so he's actually fine. Let's watch Grace here. The poke seems unnecessary. That's what he's caught on, and it's a nice play from OnFleek, but he goes down, and then Root pulls off an amazing fight. I misidentified him as Grace on the live. It is, of course, Root. He comes in. Watch his health bar involvement. He instantly almost kills 4 people, and he'll get to the point where he almost kills 4 people at almost any item timing, such as Vladimir. That's why I call him Malphite, Orianna, and one champion. Watch as this goes on. You're like, oh, he's going to die here. Watch this Q. It's 1,000 heal Atlas at this point in the game. But there's 4 bad guys because they got so close to getting through the door. Just about stumble at the last second. Will they lose the Baron with all the mountains and the Infernals? The answer looks like yes.
Yeah, that's a definite yes. 2 minutes until the last remaining dragon, apart from Elder, hits the Rift. 6 dragons could come in here for SANDBOX Gaming, as Baron is going to be added on as well. As far as kill and neutrals are concerned, SANDBOX feeling pretty damn good about it in this game so far.
Now they have the Baron that seemed like it might be impossible to get after Grace went down. Watching this replay, this must have been another kill. Grace went for a very greedy minion wave when they had no priority, and he died.
Yeah. This is an example of a thing you shouldn't do in your game. Be pushed way past your outer turret that is no longer there.
Thomas Kent's really good at catching those people.
Yeah, as it turns out.
And now he's just proxying the enemy minion wave here, allowing Ghost to have some turret threat. Of course, they can all walk up. They do enough turret damage. Double Mountain, double Infernal, a Baron, oh my. Looking to end the game here is SANDBOX, and they want to do it as fast as possible.
Yep. Chongo not going to get hit by that Shock Blast, as Jin Air might have one more team fight in them. Can they actually land the Hemo Plague in the right spot? Is Grace going to stay alive, as the start of the battle actually hasn't even unfolded yet? That's a lot of the questions here, as Jin Air just haven't done enough in this game. 15,000 gold going to be the lead, and they might just watch as this game is over. Kellen takes half of his health bar, incidentally, from Summit, who's just thrown out these empowered shock blasts.
All right, Root, you're level 16. Time to press R on multiple people, but SANDBOX refuse to group up.
Yeah, look at how spread they are around this map. Both Nexus turrets do go down finally. There's a Hemo Plague. It ain't optimal, but it needed to happen at some point as Jin Air are diving on forward, but you can see the blue health bars. There is no issue here, and the 1v1 in the backline is going to be won by the Jace. It seems to be the story so far.